what's our hand here? Hey, we got the combo. It's going to keep. This is a definitely slower one though with the Emperor instead of the Goryos. Just can't really mulligan this, especially game one. So yeah, I don't know. I as far as artist talent plus Riddler goes too, you do have to like stay down on cards. Maybe that's easy to do, but to me it doesn't sound that good. I guess. I think like artists like Quantum Riddler is just pretty good in affinity builds in general because you just dump your hand, you don't play that many lands, and you get to like the extra card draw. And I think balancing Riddler with the other card draw and affinity can be kind of tricky. We played a build that went pretty poorly that I've been kind of wanting to rebalance, but I've also been pretty interested in just like staying a little bit away from Eldrazi Temple and Moxopol for a bit. Although I think it's been like maybe a full week since we played a Temple or a Moxopol. Yeah, this was the last Temple, so yeah, it's been about a week since we did that. So maybe it's about time to come back. So they're going for the turn 2 Tamiyo flip. They're playing this in a way that they don't get to make their clue token with the Tamiyo. I had an idea for Twiddle while we're on the Twiddle topic. And I don't think it's gonna work. Okay, so this is I like to when I have an idea that is interesting and I can't get it to work. Sometimes I bring it up on stream like this. But the idea is that you played Necro, and then in your instep you Necro for a ton, and then you draw into a ton of Twiddles. And because the Twiddles are instant speed, you can start twiddling your Lotus Field and you maybe your Dimir bounce land to make a ton of mana in your instep. The mana's really bad. It doesn't go off till turn 4, although what's interesting about going off turn 4 is that's your Profane Tutor turn. And then you have to find an instant speed payoff for all this mana. So the instant speed payoff can be something like Nexus of Fates into untapping and winning, which I didn't exactly like very much because then you only have 5 cards. And so I think that's about as far as I got with the idea, actually, was that there wasn't like an instant speed payoff that could be good. And Thoracle, yeah, I guess you could go like you could just play like something that gives Oracle Flash, but I guess another part of the problem is you don't get to draw your whole deck. You get to draw like 15 cards. Yeah, maybe something like Blue Suns. I don't know. So it's I think the idea of like Necro into a bunch of Twiddles, like it sounds pretty cool, but it doesn't really sound like it works. Yeah, maybe that Lord of the Rings thing that gives any spell flash. Something like that could be okay, but that was the idea. So, I give you the idea. There's content for you. Lazy content. Think of this like a tweet. Blue Leyline. The problem with Blue Leyline is you gotta have that card in your hand. It ain't that easy to do that. But if you can have it in your hand, it's good. Yeah, 15 cards if you're not playing Boros, then you get to draw like 7 cards and you brick. So I don't know. I thought it was a fun idea for sure. Okay, they play an Ornithopter before playing an Emissary from Warp, so they're gonna class a Kappa Cannoneer here. Although could they? I mean, they couldn't. They couldn't have Emissaried into Cannoneer actually. Oh, it's a Thought Monitor. Okay. Is Quick and Grapeshot too unreliable? I mean, probably it is. It doesn't sound like the worst thing ever. Alright, that puts me in pretty bad shape here. Can't attack as the Tamiyo plus. And your 3 colors with triple black? Well, I think it would just be blue and black, right? I don't know what third color you're thinking. Again, I don't think this deck idea is gonna work. So here's the idea for you. If you could figure something out, good job. All right, so they plus the Tamiyo, so we really got to go off this turn. Seems tough. I guess we could just try to Phlage the Tamiyo this turn. Okay. Poor Tamio, no value. Goif Powder with Leyline Gilpeg Zoo sounds interesting. We've done it. It was pretty solid. Nothing too crazy. Grilling with the 46. Thanks. Welcome back. Tamio made 0 clues. 0 clues, 0 cards picked up. If someone doesn't have $700 for placement of Opals, how much worse is using Drum? It's a lot worse. A lot of your Opal decks also want to play Drum too, so. Like if you're playing Affinity, you kind of already want to play 4 Drums. All right, we have used 1 minute 6 seconds. My opponent has used 5 minutes 20 seconds. Let's get a plus 10 minutes on the clock prediction here. My opponent has 1 card in their hand. Okay, now they had a Tamio +1, so we don't have attack with the FOMO. Right now we are ahead almost 5 minutes, so let's see if we get the plus 10. Will I be brewing Fleam? I mean, the card does not seem like a playable modern card. Maybe it's okay in standard. Yeah, might be due to the Magic Online. I know this is the dialogue tree. They're playing slow, so we just imagine all the reasons why they might be playing slow. They are good enough to get the Tormod's Crypt. Now they probably should main phase crack the Crypt because we have Phlage in the yard and enough things to escape the Phlage. We'll see what happens though. They do have a Thoughtcast. Does this mean opponent has more than 10 minutes left? It means that they are behind 10 minutes on the clock for us to get the plus 10 minute prediction successfully. So it's hopefully punish just like a shock land to punish them. Well, that's a really good draw. No haste, but still pretty solid on this board. Bad if they have Rebuke, I guess, but they've already used the Rebuke we knew about. I have 3 card types in the yard. They're probably just jumping with the FOMO. The good news is we'll just have all of our mana untapped, so we'll get to be at like 21 life. We have Griselbrand in play. We can Fury untap the Kaalia, try to find an Atraxa, put that into play. Try to find FOMO plus Arena, untap one of our big things, attack again. Our opponent has Pinnacle Emissary, and then they have 2 other cards in their hand. We are getting pretty close to our plus 10 minutes already after we've used 1 minute 18 seconds. They've used almost 9 minutes. They are casting a spell, and that spell is Pinnacle Emissary. Then they play a Mox Opal. Then they think some more. Maybe a Kappa Cannoneer. I don't know if we've ever been plus 10 minutes in game. I probably have, but we're getting there. They play Sink into the Stupor as a land, which is a little bit surprising. I would think that they, a lot of times, would want to just bounce Kaalia. Kaalia Fury kind of awkward. It is a little bit awkward, but what you're going to do a lot of the time is, like, if you have Griselbrand, find Atraxa or vice versa. Okay, then they sacrifice the Tormod's Crypt. Then they attack. Think long, think wrong, I suppose. All right, don't think I want to cast this looting. I guess they're just gonna double block the Kaalia actually, which is okay. Are there any other fatties that almost made a deck? Well, when you're in on Kaalia, and Kaalia is pretty good. When you're in on Kaalia, it's pretty tough to play anything else because it needs to be an angel or a demon. Yeah, I'm excited for Spider-Man 2. Spider-Man Brews starting on Tuesday. A week from today. Okay, now the Fury doesn't untap this Griselbrand because you didn't, like, declare attackers with it. But what we can do is we can haste FOMO, cast Fury of the Horde, and then untap the Griselbrand. Now we need to get Delirium to do that. So right now we have enchantment and creature. So why don't we go Thoughtseize our opponent first, and then FOMO discard Goryos to get Delirium, then cast the Fury and untap. Although maybe I should draw. We'll see what they have, but this does put me in a spot where I can't draw an extra 7, which is tough. But knowing that they have another sink in their hand is at least a good thing to know about. Actually, this is just better for me now, right? Because now I just get to go loot away the Griselbrand and then Goryos and cast Fury, right? Okay, so let's go cast the looting. This is a very funny sequence. Cast the looting, discard Griselbrand. Probably doesn't matter too much what the other one we discarded is, just not a red card, I guess. And then we Goryos the Griselbrand. Should we Goryo's Atraxa instead? If we Goryo's Atraxa, the thing is we need to Fury of the Horde 2 more times to win, and we only have 2 more Furies in the deck. And they have nothing, so Goryosing the Atraxa seems a lot safer. Maybe I could even just Goryos it on their turn. Can you just Goryos Kaalia? I don't have another big thing. I guess I could have left the Griselbrand in my hand, yeah. Why not Phlage instead? Just cast Phlage? I mean, I guess you could do that. We just cast Phlage, we go up to 16, and then this is 5, 6, and then we're down to 10. I guess that's okay. Yeah, sure. We'll just do this next turn then. We're very, very interesting. That was maybe the most interesting turn we've had in like a month. like I don't know that there were more really cool, unique options we could have done than that turn. Okay, and then they attack, and then they concede. So we did win that game. Not an easy one. So last time we played this matchup, we boarded in these 7 cards, and then we moved away from the Fury since they have all these flying blockers. I regretted not having. I think I just want the first Fire Magic to like dig 4 with Atraxa to clear the board in the late game, but it's not that important because I think you just set up for a spot where you just put the big stuff into play with Kaalia and then just stay in play. So I ended up going down 1, 2, 3, 4, right? I like the just Phlage line because I got to stop thinking. That was a really nice part of that line. So this hand can discard Griselbrand to hand size and try to Goryos it on turn 3. So it's a little bit weird to do that when we have Kaalia plus Arena. So let's definitely keep and just see what happens. But like there's a pretty good chance that my opponent will keep this kind of hand, or they can either Saga for Graveyard Hate, or they just have Graveyard Hate and we just Kaalia put Griselbrand into play. That happens a lot in these kind of sideboard games. We 3-2'd the first league. We maybe could have 5-0'd if we played better. The last 2 matches were played poorly, and you could expect YouTube apologies for both matches. I'll be crying and petting Athena the whole time, so look forward to that. Hear me out. 1 Urini in this list over Phlage. Okay, so my opponent has Rebuke. I think with double Goryos, let's just go ahead and discard the Kaalia. So can Urini be put into play off Kaalia? This one, right? Oh, no. It's a dragon. Okay, so when an enters attack, like a top 8, put a dragon from among them onto the battlefield. Well, we don't have any more dragons to trigger, right? Just the 1 dragon. Okay, so they have a Rebuke. So we could cast. I think I like just casting Stony Silence because it's just gonna eat a Rebuke here, or it should. Oh, it's not that one. Oh, Urini is the. It deals damage, right? And it's pro black, pro white. I don't like that card is mostly only good when you Kaalia it. I don't like that it's really not very good to Goryos. And then what's nice is that they don't counter this for some reason, then their Tormod's Crypts and stuff are offline. And then with maybe what will happen next turn is that they'll cast something and then keep up a Rebuke, but we could just Pending one of the Midmites, and then they might not have Rebuke up anymore, and then we can Goryos the Kaalia. Not definitely something that will happen. It looks like that's not going to be effective. Okay, 3 cards in their hand. Okay, so we'll see if they have a Force of Negation. Their lists do play Force sometimes. Tintin can be lethal with Fury. Like, I mean, well, I don't like this attitude of like if you have Fury, it's still lethal, right? Because you have to Goryo's it, you have to put this in the graveyard, then you have to have Fury 2 red cards. Like the reason why Fury works is because you're drawing like 21, 28 cards. You know, Fury doesn't work with like the Goryo's creatures that don't draw a lot of cards, in my opinion. I'm pretty happy with 6 big things usually, though. All right, let's mulligan this. Keep this on 6 on the play. Put back second Phlage, I think. Yeah, played too slow. So the rest of the week is going to be a little bit weird. Tomorrow's Magic Online maintenance. Me and Esther going to the wedding venue to do like one last walkthrough. So no stream tomorrow. Going to go longer today. And then I have 2 decks I really want to play in a challenge. I've got this one and I've got the Teamer deck, which have really only been the 2 weeks this week. But also like the week before set release, I usually don't mind kind of just focusing in a little bit more on certain decks. Okay, up against Belcher probably. So what we might do is just play a challenge Thursday and Friday. There's a Thursday challenge that starts an hour earlier than the stream usually starts. So we might do that. Well, it'll kind of depend on how the off-stream brewing goes, I guess. All right, let's play a FOMO turn 2, even though it is always getting countered if they played Seagate untapped. So let's not actually. Let's just cast this Seize. Yeah, there's a Stern Scolding, which we might take, although they only have one other land. They only have one other land, but they do have Tamashi, which is so deadly with this Bloom. Even with the one land. Yeah, I think even the problem is even with the one land, the Tamashi is really good. And what's kind of nice is my opponent might, if they have the other land, I would even say a high chance they just tap out for Thundertrap Trainer so we can play the FOMO, and if it gets flared, but they won't have the Scolding up, which would be good. So Scolding, Shoal, Flare, Mystery card. I guess the card we don't want to see is a Belcher more than anything else. They reveal a Sink. A land would be nice. I'd rather resolve the Spyro here, of course, although not quite that lucky. It's okay. We'll see if they flare this. I think they could also kind of easily just let it go. I would be letting this go most of the time if I were them, I think. So we have 3 card types for Delirium purposes. The Bloom ticks down to 1. And then they play an Archaeologist, which mills over 2 Jiswari Disruptions and a Suppression Ray. They do take the Ray. I think having the white mana for a future Tamashi matters more than maybe casting one of these. Although I am missing land drops. So then they play this tapped, which gives me a pretty good window to try to draw a land to get this through a Stern Scolding, although I guess we'll take a FOMO. All right, definitely want to main phase Travail because we could maybe hit Delirium to get double attacks in. Seems like black-white's what we want. Let's say no to Thoughtseize. We don't know about any like mandatory Thoughtseizable cards here. So the Bloom comes off suspend. We'll see if they found a Tamashi or a Bloom. We know that they have Sink, Flare, Shoal, Scolding as 4 of their 6 mystery cards after they draw. I'm pretty likely just to cast the Phlage, which doesn't get Scolding next turn, kill the Archaeologist, start getting with the FOMOs. This was one of the mystery cards here. They are holding up Sink. If we had Delirium, that would be really interesting. Although I guess it would just get countered. I guess next turn we might be able to escape Phlage and Flurry. Weird game. So they bounce this back into my hand. We get to get him for 2 damage. Don't think I'm cashing this in for 4 damage right now. Thanks, Rocco, for the 49 months. Appreciate you. Taking advantage of September, 25% off subscriptions. Incredible. Hope you're doing well. So this resolved very quickly, which means they drew Whir, which I don't like very much. We can't beat it if I'm right. I don't really think. I don't think they let anything resolve that quickly unless they just have Whir. They just immediately identify it doesn't matter. All right, so we'll see what their build looks like. And thank you, Cadre, with the Twitch Prime. Okay, so they waterlogged Teachings for Whir, which is notably different. So if we draw a land for Phlage, we can beat the Flare. So we escape the Phlage, then they Flare, then we Fury of the Horde to get in for lethal. So land is lethal. Kaalia does a lot of nothing here. So I suppose what we could do is we could cast Emperor of Bones as bait and like they might think that they have to Scolding the Emperor. Exert Spyro. Okay, so if we exert Spyro, the problem is we would have to draw a red card. So I guess it makes more sense to exert on the Emperor, because then it's actually lethal. And so if they flare this, because they might flare this because they might still want to Whir, and then we have lethal with just the worst Fury of the Horde anyone's ever cast in Modern. We have 4 red cards. We have to discard. So if we play Spyro, we have to discard Kaalia Emperor. Then we only have 1 red card, right? So exerting Spyro isn't lethal, but exerting Emperor is. And we also have like Atraxa in the yard, so they might think that we have the land in our hand. So they do flare. So their hand is Whir, Shoal, Scolding? Mystery card. So, you know, if we get Jurari Disruptions, they still don't have lethal at least, I guess. The worst Fury of the Horde you've ever seen. Although, I mean, it's for lethal. I guess that can only be so bad, huh? So they force pitching Stern Scolding, and they're going to go ahead and Whir for Belcher. Let's go ahead and see what their build is like. Now, yeah, it was the one mystery card. A fun line. They're main decking a Flood Maul. It looks like that was the only Force of Negation, unless they drew 1 for turn. Was that really the one out? I should have looked at that a little longer. It seems like they maybe one outed us there. So this is kind of the tentative sideboard plan. Just bring in 2 Stony Silences. I think I'm going to play Wear Tears over Phlages, although Phlage can be sometimes good to tax their counter magic. Maybe we'll play 1 Phlage over Spyro number 2. I'm going to click the submit button, go to the bathroom, and I'll be right back. All right, on the play here. All right, let's not mulligan this hand. It's definitely kind of close. I think I should go Blood Crypt Thoughtseize turn 1. I think Thoughtseize turn... I mean, I do have the Stony Silence for Lotus Blue. Things are a lot easier if we have the second land. What are y'all leading on here? I think it's the Thoughtseize for me, so we can figure out how to sequence this. It has the upside of being able to turn 2 Stony after the Thoughtseize. And sometimes you just wreck them. They're on a mull 6. They have 1, 2 lands. They have a Snare, which you probably just need to take. Yeah, I'll take the Snare. The Flare is a little tough, but we have 2 like kind of must counters here. Although I guess we don't. I guess the Goryos isn't quite yet a must counter. They suspend the Bloom. We draw not a white source. So let's discard the Kaalia, so as soon as we draw a big thing, we can cast it. And I guess we'll discard the Phlage instead of the Spyro, but Phlage killing the creature is kind of interesting. I might just bait Goryo a flare on the Goryos, so I can resolve the Stony Silence the following turn. They reveal a Goblin Charbelcher, so that line is looking better. Obviously, I might just find a big thing too. So we'll go ahead and get Elegant Parlor. Discard that. Yeah, I like, unless they know my hand, I don't think they can not flare this. They're thinking about it. Right, they do decide to flare. Reminds me a lot of like casting Dark Rituals and Legacy Storm just to try to bait the counterspell out of their hand. So Bloom has one counter on it. They've used the flare. They've used both these lands. We know they have a Goblin Charbelcher and they have some mystery cards. They have a Grafdigger's Cage, which we can beat with a hard cast Kaalia. Hopefully they don't have a Snare as the one mystery card. I consider myself Amulet's biggest hater. I don't think I'd like to get that title, I suppose. You know, I hate a lot of things. I don't think I feel real hatred for anything in Magic the Gathering. It's just cards. So they're thinking here. Their hand is Goblin Charbelcher, 2 mystery cards. Are there any non-blue Belcher variants that still get played? There's a red Belcher build, yeah. So maybe we should be a little bit worried about a sync here. Arena is pretty good for Kaalia, but we don't have the Kaalia, so let's draw some gas, I think, or try to. Now, if they do have sync, they have to have an untapped land to really get me, and I have to not draw Thoughtseize here. Okay, they could bounce the Stony in response to this. They could have also bounced Stony in response to the Seasoned Pyromancer trigger. That's kind of high level, but here's a high level play, bounce in response to the Spyro trigger. They play Hydra. They chose to hold this up instead of casting the Goblin Charbelcher. So let's see what that mystery card is. Another Belcher. Shouldn't they have just definitely cast a Belcher last turn? That would have like just let them have any sync as an out. They draw and suspend a Lotus Bloom instead. Now again, this Grafdigger's Cage is stopping me from flashbacking looting or escaping the Phlage. But it does not stop Emperor of Bones, thankfully. So we get to Griselbrand them. And keep the Griselbrand into play. Should be deterministic. Cage does not stop Phlage. Cage stops you from casting spells in the graveyard, and pretty sure that's how you get the Phlage back. So I kind of want to find an arena for the FOMO if I'm going to Fury here. I don't find an arena, but I do find Atraxa to put into play for lethal. Kaalia. Just say no. It's fine. They're dead. What are we doing here? All right, go to game 3 is what we're doing here. Yeah, let's go. Very fun that we won that game because we casted Goryos that did nothing. I remember I was playing a Legacy team event. I was always the Legacy player for team events, and we were on feature match, although I wasn't the player featured at the moment. But it was a very weird game against Merfolk where I don't really remember the exact dynamics. I think maybe I'd pondered a relevant card to the top, but I could Taxian Probe them, and I had the ability to cast Dark Ritual, and if I cast a Dark Ritual, I was doing nothing after that. I think it's probably because I could have naturally emptied my hand. Okay, here was the dynamic, I think. I was playing against Merfolk. They had Chalice of the Void and Force of Will in their hand. I didn't care about Chalice on 1 because I had maybe 2 LEDs and an Infernal Tutor, but I couldn't... No, if I had the LEDs, then I could have cast it. I don't know. I remember the dynamic was that I didn't care about the chalice. I couldn't beat the Force of Will, and if they didn't Force of Will the Dark Ritual, then I was just gonna pass after casting the ritual. But I knew that they would force because they had the chalice, and then I won the game. But I can't remember. I still cannot remember why it was that I could beat the the chalice but not the force. All right. Anyways, sorry for the ramble. Keeping this on the draw. I remember like showing my teammate that turn, and he was very confused. Had no idea what was going on. I think this is a spot to take the other land. I mean, they do have a bloom. Maybe I should take. The thing is, like the Harbinger becomes really scary if I don't take the land, because I can only get one basic type. Small nitpick, maybe better to put second Griselbrand into play and not show them 2 more cards. Yeah, I guess that was a little bit better. They don't draw the land, which is good. So I'm going to be trying to get a swamp and a mountain if I can here. Maybe also the plains. LED always confuses me. You put Infernal Tutor on the stack so it doesn't get discard to LED. Yes, that's the typical angle. And maybe I've just made a big mistake against the Belcher. Although I also have, I've got like Bloom and stuff. I've got like a good amount of ways around it. All right, so I expect this FOMO to get snared or scolding. I'm kind of hoping they use scolding instead of snare so that we can Kaalia the Griselbrand into play next turn. Okay, good. Now, if they do draw an untapped land and play Harbinger, we can't Kaalia. If they don't, I need to get a white Surveil land. I guess they could play the Harbinger here, but I think it's a bit more likely that even if they draw the land, that they'll just play a Belcher and try to activate it next turn and keep up snare. They might do that anyways. Another pretty cool game. Okay, so they do play the Belcher. They're keeping up snare. Do they have a land? They do have a land. So if we don't draw Stony Silence or Wear Tear, although I guess Wear Tear doesn't do it because they have the snare up, we're going to have to kill them with the Kaalia Griselbrand here, which is actually going to be kind of tough, but it is doable because you get to keep untapping the Kaalia and putting more Griselbrands into play. Now, I discarded a Fury of the Horde. That might be the reason we lose this game. I'm also only at 14 instead of 15. That could be a really big deal here, too. But let's go for it. So I get to draw 14 looking for a Fury. Ugh, if I could just draw 21, it'd be so much better. No Fury. Okay, we find one. Is there a Griselbrand, though? There is a Griselbrand, so we can keep going. If we just had one more life, we'd be so much safer here. We do only need to Fury them one more time. So if we find it in the next 7, we get there, and if we don't, we don't. If we hit an Atraxa, we would have had 3 extra looks, I guess. Yeah, well, I have to find the 3rd Fury in the next 7. Yes. Oh, and then I forgot I also have to, no, just the Kaalia was lethal, but we did find the Atraxa. Yeah, so I know it's a little bit weird that Fury only untaps Kaalia, but if you're doing it with Griselbrand, you just draw so many cards. It's usually fine. Okay. Dead. Fun game. Yeah, I don't know if Fury looks like a little bit of a meme DL, but it really is the best way to build this Mardu build. I know this is an older deck, but it just, like, the problem with this deck was that it had it had a lot of value, and it could discard Phlage and Arena Phlage and FOMO. But the problem was you could just not win very fast or stop your opponent from winning like Esper can. All right, on the play for round 3. Should Fury not untap Griselbrand? It's weird, but you didn't like declare attackers with Griselbrand, so you don't get to attack with it. I know it's weird. Okay, let's keep this. But again, it usually doesn't matter that much because you get to just keep drawing into big stuff and keep putting it into play. So, and then sometimes you get to like haste to FOMO afterwards. Oh yeah, it doesn't have haste, that's right. It just is tapped and attacking. So turn 2 Atraxa is usually not lethal. Hopefully this is just not a blue deck, so we can just go for end of turn Goryos. And then that might be good enough. It is a blue deck. Maybe, I guess I should just go for end of turn Goryos anyways because I have 3 Goryos. I've done anything with the Cascade Birthing Ritual Shell, real Cascade Beans vibes. I've seen it in action. It does give real Cascade Beans vibes. I wasn't sure that it was gonna like end up sticking around. I've only played against it once. Could definitely be something to work on. It doesn't seem like you're really good in the creature matchups, and I don't think you're so good in the non-creature matchups. Is likely how it's gonna end up playing. Wait, they have a bounce spell here? Oh, they just consigned the trigger. Wow, that's insane here. Main deck consign, insanely good against us right now. Guess I need to take the Murktide. I might call that a little unlucky. Cool to see Tragic Trajectory, although I didn't exactly like the card very much when we were playtesting it. I think we need to keep both Goryos since we know they have Snare. Yeah, they just didn't snare the Goryos because they knew I had so many. So like they had to, in order for them to even do that, they have to also have Thoughtseize us. Hey, maybe we should have waited on the looting. Might just go to discard. Draw 4 more. Only 1 Surveil land? I think I'm interested in trying to go to discard. If they're not hitting land drops, especially, they don't have threats. Although drawing that, I think my attitude has changed. That's okay. Although I guess let's go and just see if I surveil creature into the yard here. Because then I can go for end of turn Goryos, untap Goryos if I want. So let's just see if that's what, or I might flashback looting if I see looting. Okay, we don't. But this is good against 3 of the 6 known cards. Let's untap him. I made the Cascade Birthing Ritual deck. I've tried other variants and everything is fine, but nothing is clearly broken how up the Beanstalk was. I agree it's not clearly broken. I think, again, like that build seems to be really good in the creature matchups, and you're not like just dead to combo, but Cascade Beans was really, really good against combo in a way that this build doesn't seem like it likely is. Okay, interesting that they are casting the Thoughtseize. This means that if I can resolve, okay, sorry, I forgot to click off this Murktide. If I can resolve both Phlages, they just die to the triggers. I guess they maybe have another consign. They maybe have counterspell, obviously, but like I just have enough to escape the Phlage twice. What was Cascade Beans? So this was a deck that we built when Up the Beanstalk was legal. There have been a few people. Oh, they have the main deck Nile Spellbomb. I guess we could just draw another Phlage. This is a deck we built when Beanstalk was legal, and the idea was that like other people had played like Agent into Beanstalk, but they were also playing Rhinos. So I just cut the Rhinos, and you would just always Shardless Agent or Ardent Plea into Up the Beanstalk, and then your deck was just all. It was all Force of Negations and Solitudes and Furies, and you would just kill all your opponent's stuff, counter everything, win the game. Eventually, we were also playing. What's the card called? Charlotte, Bloodbraid Elf to have double Cascaders, but it's usually better to have Force of Negation in. It was nice. Very nice deck. Okay, opponent's going down to 2. They were ready for us with the main deck Consign, main deck Nile Spellbomb. So they're finally going to get to use their Snare all of these turns later. I guess we'll cast this. We get punished for not trying to kill the Subtlety with the Phlage. I think it was really a fine choice with what we knew. I do want to cast this because if I draw Phlage and they have Counterspell, I can Goryo's the Phlage for lethal. But I couldn't do that if I didn't cast the FOMO. So I think instead of going for information, let's just try to like see if their hand has all removal spells. It's not very likely, but I think we might as well. Okay, they force a negation, and we go to game 2. Tough one. They had my number there. So they have Nile Spellbomb, so I'm interested in Stony Silence. So the Prismatic Ending might just be the better option because it also gets rid of Frog and Tamio, and that's it. I think I am interested in just not playing many, if any, Furies. I think we could just say no Fury of the Hordes, and then also play the Stonies, because if they have a main deck Spellbomb, they're going to have more on the board. Fetching took a turn off the clock. Yeah, we just had so many good surveils there. It kind of like adds a turn to the clock in some ways, right? But we're also just so unlikely to beat any amount of counter magic, which they almost definitely had at that point. Oh yeah, I forgot that with the Bean deck, we eventually started adding Elder Deep Fiend, which I think might have been Mason Clark tech. I think it was. But we just started Elder Deep Fiending. It was so cool. Didn't you notice what Sarcastic goes for? I was thinking about it. I think we were a little short. Yeah, we also played Fury of the Horde. This build wasn't as good. But we tried like Allosaurus Rider and Fury of the Horde with the beans, Cascade Beans. A lot of different fun builds. Yeah, I think that Orvars maybe should just be Surgicals, but we've been getting Archon a lot lately, so I think it's kind of a fun one. Has Standard Steelseeker lost its niche in the format, or is there some brew that could maybe want a copy or two? Well, for the most part, it's only been really good in cookbook decks, and cookbook decks haven't been so good, or at the very least, probably have to keep this on the play. I think I'm gonna get a basic swamp here because we do want to fetch around Harbinger a little bit. So, as far as Steelseeker goes, Steelseeker was a card that was really nice when the format was slower and you could afford to play the Asmo deck as like, you had some turn 4 like aggro kills, but you just didn't need to like interact with your opponent or kill them super fast. And I do think that dynamic has changed. I think it's really tough to not be really fast or really interactive as an Asmo deck, which makes it very tough to play a Steelseeker variant. You set in Orvar when your opponent has Archon of Cruelty in their deck, and that's about it. I'm going to keep the FOMO. Probably discarding Griselbrand. They do get a basic island end of turn, which is very odd because it doesn't help them with Harbinger, and they could have just surveilled. Maybe they misclicked. Tough Snare. Another thing, not that this is directly related to Sanris Steelseeker, but like fair green cards are just not very good. Like there are a couple of good green cards. It's like, if you think of just mono green for mid-range aggro control. And more so mid-range aggro because mono green very rarely goes in control, of course. But if you think about mono green cards that just fit in these archetypes, like you used to like think of this like was a big part of the identity of the modern color pie. It was that green was part of mid-range at least with Tarmogoyf, but it's like you have Fanatic of Ronus and you have we're getting Harbingered here. Yeah, Fanatic Rose and you have Springheart Nantuko are like kind of like the only two green cards that are any good. And then both those cards kind of require a lot of other cards to exist to be good with them. And there are some things that are kind of okay, but nothing that's like really good enough to make the cut. They tap out for the Murktide, so we get to tap out for this Spyro, discarding these two. Maybe they Subtlety. They do Subtlety, pitching the Sink, so we know no cards in their hand anymore. I'm gonna go ahead and keep this on top. Yeah, there's Birthing Ritual, that's true. Although Birthing Ritual is a little bit different, where it's like, I guess all of these cards are just really synergistic, and they're not like generically good. They have 2 cards. Let's see if they have another Subtlety. I think I'll tap like this. Probably doesn't matter that much. They have a Scolding. We get hit for 5 down to 7, and then we're going to try to set up for the Escaped Phlage, I guess. I mean, I do need to... Okay, let's try to bait a counterspell like this. The last card's counterspell, they might counterspell the ending. But I need the extra card in the yard anyways, so that seemed like enough of a reason to cast it, despite the Phlage being good enough to kill the frog. Notably, they didn't grow the Murktide to 6 power. They might have just missed the line. They might also have a Murktide as their last card. So we are dead if they have Counterspell or Subtlety as one of the last 2. Let's see. Are we interested in killing the Murktide or just going face? Let's just see if it resolves before I need to use any unnecessary brain power. Okay. I think I'll go after the Murktide. Kind of cold to sink. Although they would have synced it on the stack, right? Purge. Well, we aren't dead, but, you know, that stinks. Now we go to 1. If their last card is an instant or sorcery, we're dead. Now we're dead. Okay. Well, they had our number that match. I think we played it pretty reasonably. It also it does make your Omniscience turns really powerful if your opponent have creatures to kill. All right, let's go for the turn 2 win on the play here. When I play test off stream, do I finish the league or still drop O2? I drop way more aggressively off stream. I'll drop at 1-0 really often. If I feel like I want to change a single card, I drop, and if I don't, I don't. I usually will like play 1 match and realize I want to change like 1 card and then keep moving. So there's a Leyline of the Guild Pact, which means that if my opponent has Lightning Bolt, Stumber Denial, or Leyline Binding, they can stop me. Yeah, I do think Stock Up looked really good. I agree. So I do think that that's an issue, but I do think Flame does give us a much better fair plan. You have to pay for leagues on Daybreak account. You get like 10 free a month. Sometimes I have to pay, but when I run out of points, I just start playing on my Spike account usually. Does it cost money to drop like that? Yeah, sometimes I spend money, but you know, it's just like production costs for the stream. Well, I think we'll wait on the Goryos a turn. See if we draw Thoughtseize. I think that's maybe better than trying to draw the Goryos. Okay, what's interesting is now... Maybe I should just discard the Griselbrand all along. But now we beat Lightning Bolt, and then we can still draw cards against Binding. So if they have Stub, they have Stub, but... Yeah, I should just discard Griselbrand when I saw the Leyline. I was just too obsessed with keeping the brand in play there. They do have the Stub, unfortunately. What is the funniest oops moment you have during one of your off-brew sessions, like forgetting a card vital for that or making a blunder? Oh, I don't know if I have the file. I do have a really good answer for this. I think it's on the other account. I kept it, even though the deck doesn't work, I kept it on my deck list as a reminder. But I'm gonna pull it up because it is really funny. They flip a FOMO here. Right. And then hopefully it'll be here before Thursday's stream. Now, sad because we have the swamp, we can't escape the Phlage. Maybe we'll just draw an Emperor or a Goryo's. Ooh. Let's go to game 3. I know we have the Emperor. I think we're not winning against this though. They do play Rest in Peace sometimes. I think we should just be bringing in the Prismatic Endings over the Spyros, which are a little slow and low power. I guess maybe Wear Tear also hits Rest in Peace, of course, but does help against the Ley Lines and the Scions. Maybe we can trim 1 Phlage, 1 Emperor, play 3 Endings. Let's try that. Yeah, then let me pull this deck up. Okay, so I spent probably like 6 hours on this, and before I realized it didn't work, and it took so long for a really specific reason. So I thought I had found something really special, which was Reconnaissance from Assassin's Creed plus an attacking mana dork to give infinite mana at instant speed. So Reconnaissance is a 1-mana enchantment. It says 0, remove target tapped and attacking creature from combat and untap it. So how I thought this worked was that you could attack with a Noble Hierarch or a Dryad Arbor or Paradise Druid was really the sweetest one because it has hexproof when it's untapped. So you like attack, they'd go to kill it, you just untap it with Reconnaissance. And I thought you could just untap it infinite times and make infinite mana. This doesn't work because the creature is removed from combat once this ability resolves and no longer is a legal target and you can't untap it. So it does not work. This is unplayable on Moto. I mean, unplayable just in general. But the reason this took so long was that I realized that, you know, with the infinite mana, you could win like with a Ballista, or you could win you could win if you had Ballista and play our Cauldron Ballista to pump, but it was really important to me that a Chord of Calling won the game, okay? It was really important Chord of Calling won the game. And so the way you won with Chord of Calling, and this is the best I could find, is Chord of Calling for Urza, and then you spin your whole deck until you find Gandalf, which allows you to cast Gearhulk to cast Ballista. That was the win con of the deck. That was the deck's win con. Yeah, so yeah, even if you hold priority, it doesn't work. I did try that too. So yeah, again, that deck took me I think probably like 6 hours I worked on it before like finally getting a playable build, and then it just didn't work at all. Pretty funny. Pretty sure there are other infinite mana things in Modern. So the thing is, this is infinite. It's infinite mana at instant speed, and then of course it's like you could play Comet Storm. This is always a stupid conversation we have. You could play Comet Storm, but like, wouldn't you rather be able to win with Chord of Calling in your Chord of Calling combo deck? Isn't it really important that Chord of Calling can be a win the game card? All right, I think we play around Rest in Peace since we have second Goryo's here. Why not just Chord for Gandalf? Well, if you Chord for Gandalf, you have to also have a Ballista in your hand. So you first have to get the Urza to cast infinite spells to and then find Gandalf to cast the spells at instant speed. All right, just have 2 Goryos, 5-head. Reconnaissance is busted, but not Intruder Alarm busted. Are there other combos with Reconnaissance? Because I literally couldn't figure one out after failing with this. There's like some legacy, like the Cephalids that trigger whenever they get targeted by anything, but those aren't legal in Modern. Listen, I spent a long time hammering this one out. I do think that was the best way. Wait, am I bricking? No way, dude. No! No, I meant to cast the looting! Magic Online is the worst fucking interface. I should have like at least I meant to cast looting to like dig a little bit deeper. Now we're done to burn spell. We didn't necessarily need to be. Yeah, looting. I mean, it wasn't definitely lethal. We had to hit one of the last 3 in the top 2. Maybe it was just better to Prismatic Ending. I'm just gonna try to keep an arena and a Phlage and not sweat it too much. The Magic Online interface is so tough in these spots sometimes. It's busted because it casually allows free attract triggers without losing creatures. Oh, I mean, they're just not relevant at Modern, really. Yeah, if Reconnaissance like flickered, the FOMO would work, but yeah, FOMO is just yeah. Opponent says bad luck, sorry. Yeah. Let's see if they flip the Fury of the Horde here. They did. Okay, so if I had not misclicked on the interface, we would have won this game. Although I guess we could maybe win this game still if they don't have anything. They have the bolt. All right, that's tough. You know, let's pivot over to the teamer deck just because it's gonna take some time to finish anyways. I think it'll still be a longer stream anyways. Okay, so we're playing. So we played. I did like the Mardu deck. All of the losses were to user error today. Although sometimes when you're clicking, it's.